My name is Chie Adachi. I work as Dean for Digital Education within the Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry at Queen Mary University of London. And I'm presenting today on behalf of my colleague and co-author, Dr. Elliott, our reader in learning design. And I head up a team called Digital Education Studio, which is a multidisciplinary design team to do with online program development for the faculty. And so given that this is a practice-based session, it was really enlightening to hear what you're doing in a peer assessment and peer review aspect of the work too. And today I'm sharing this project that we did with EdTech called Cadmus, and it's an assessment for learning platform. Is a platform for institutional reform on authentic assessment. And so I've given a title of Enlivening authentic assessment, because I think there's a lot of fear and concerns around assessment in general in the higher education sector. And of course, as we heard from the panel this morning around generative AI pressing a lot of pressure on what we do in assessment. And so we're kind of intentional in the use of this enlivening authentic assessment and really thinking about students and staff experience in doing the interesting thing with online assessment. So do I press here? So as I say, there's a lot of contextual factors playing within the sector. And David Bowd, our colleague from Deakin, famously mentioned that assessment really drives learning. Essentially, that's what we certify qualifications for students, of course, but it's a lot to do with learning experience. And if the assessment is not really well designed, students are not going to have good experience at the university as a whole. This is how important assessment is for them. And generative AI, but also we pay a lot of attention to national student survey that has assessment and feedback being core components. So NSS and for postgraduate P-test, and a lot of the KPIs around educational impact are framed around those. So within the institution, we pay a lot of attention to that. And I must say, probably like any other universities, we don't do that well in assessment and feedback. It's one of the indicators that we always see lower score from students' perspective. Online exam, I don't think if you do that really well, and pandemic shifted us to think differently and creatively about exam, and that traditional notion of cramming students into the hall and doing that record type input and output is no longer standing authentic in this post-digital world. So we need to do something different. But I think a lot of the institutions, and including ours, are kind of going back to the exam on campus and human supervision happening. Even though the students might be doing exam on computers, still supervision needs to come and so forth. So it's not completely online, but it's a combination of both. And having learned from the pandemic experience, this is the kind of hybrids, if you like, that you find often. And regulatory frameworks, which essentially feed into NSS and national level data. So the question really here is, how might we as institutions go about addressing this wicked problem of digital assessment and feedback? And at our institution, we're doing two things that my team is heavily involved within, which was first thing to set up this community of practice thematic peer group, which is a framework by the EUA, the European University Association, which is a sort of bottom-up approach to bringing experts, but also practitioners together to think about wicked problems in learning and teaching. And so we have representations across the university to discuss different aspects of digital assessment and feedback. And it's a monthly engagement that we do, and looking at issues like Gen AI, educational tools for assessment, feedback, and academic integrity issue that's really pressing. So it's a lively community of practice space. And then the other one is the innovation project that I set up within the faculty, asking money to get the license for this platform. But now we've got another faculty, humanities and social science as well, coming together to do this with us. And so it's coming to be more of an institutional, university-wide pilot project. So as an overview of this project, the aim really was to enhance students and staff experience on digital assessment and feedback, and also addressing that issue of academic integrity issue. So it's around the cases that are going to misconduct hearing and so forth. Through the pandemic, probably most of you have seen that increase of the misconduct cases. And so the aim was also to reduce those numbers and how we can support academics in engaging the conversation around this notion of misconduct and academic integrity. So as I say, Kadamas is framed as assessment for learning tool. It's not plagiarism or academic misconduct detection, but it really does nice things about assessment design and feedback. Across the pilots in semester 1, and so we're sharing the evaluation of the semester 1 pilot that we did today. 8 modules across 2 faculties, as I say, joined, and about 550 students used this and 21 educators. And there are 15 types of assessments that are sort of listed here. I have to say it's really well used for the written type of assessment like critical essay and lab report. That's predominantly text-based, and I'll come back to that in the end as to the lessons learned. But it's worked really well in terms of doing that kind of written assessments. So as I say, Kadamas does nice scaffolding. And this is the screenshot of the templates and then the environment of Kadamas that we have. It comes with range of templates. So if it was lab report, there is already a template that's been created by another institution, and critical essay and so forth. So it's already making that starting point to be easy for academics to engage. And as you can see, it's clearly laid out. The purpose of assessment and then the description more in detail, probably more than what you get in the module description and so forth. And what you can see on the right is this scaffolding of step-by-step what students need to do. That comes also with the tick list. And so students can actually take the agency to go, I've done this, I've done that. And when it comes to the resources that the students need, also embedded within it. And so students don't have to go to different places to find different types of resources to do that assessment task. And so it's nicely laid out. The checklist works, and resources sections also appreciated by a lot of the students that we heard. In terms of the academic misconduct cases, this is the power of this platform that comes with range of data. And in the back end, this is the teacher's view. And the students have a lot more limited data in terms of the engagement that they see in Kadamas, but this is teacher's view. So you see the students here and integrity assurance level. And so if there's certain things that are flagging that the students might be doing not so good things, it flags as high. So this is confidence level, high being the good indicators, moderate or unclear. So if you see unclear, for example, as a teacher, then you go on to look at that student in more detail to see what's been happening. In terms of the other types of engagement, time spent, session, so how many times students came back to do this particular assessment, and the resources access, so the PDF files and so forth that were embedded, how many times students come back to use that, word count, and also things like locations of where students were accessing this platform to do this assessment piece. And so it's slightly different from working on Word documents, for example, for written types of assessment that students do things, but teachers can't see. But because everything is in Kadamas, teachers get a lot of different types of data that make up a picture of what the engagement had been with students. And the other thing that teachers really like is that it's integrated with the Turnitin. So in the LMS environment, you kind of see Turnitin score there, but the fact that it's also here is that for teachers too, not just students, everything is in one place. And so that's something that they really like as well. So as I say, we just completed the evaluation of the semester 1, and we looked at what we need to evaluate in terms of the success indicators. And we talked about this at the start of the pilot. So when we were setting up the institutional pilot project, we discussed this idea of what does success look like? What do we need to evaluate at the end of the pilot to say we have succeeded? And so we signed out. Sorry, online participants, I'm sure will be coming back. So in terms of the success indicators, we discussed this with the program teams, of course, customers who already have done this kind of evaluation with other institutions before, and also some of the students who are part of the pilot early on. We heard from them too, to construct this evaluation framework. So there are 4 key aspects of the project that we said we will evaluate. And so one around success rate and things like submission rates, assessment average grades, passing rates improving, and then assessment design. This is mostly teachers' experience in doing assessment design of using templates and creating that clearer instructions on assessment tasks and how students engage with that. And student satisfaction, we had an online survey that was part of the platform. And so the student survey was pushed to students as they were engaging with the assessments from the platform, which increased the number of responses. So out of the 550 or so students that were part of the pilot, 420 or so students actually did this survey, which is kind of the reasonable sample size of the evaluation that we did. And then the last one is around academic misconduct. And so, as I said, there's a range of data that we looked at. So as a summary, this is the top line of the success indicators that we've seen. And so I won't talk a little more in detail about those kind of small incremental improvements that we saw, but essentially, in terms of submission rates, success rates, average grade, across the 8 modules that we had, they all went up. But what I think really interesting is positive experience with customers. So students said things like platform was easy to use, and engagement in terms of talking to teachers through that was really easy to do, and they found it useful. And then here, almost 70% students said that they increased the understanding of how to complete assessment, which is kind of a nice thing to hear, because sometimes students don't know how to tackle the assessment and we don't really know. And so the fact that we laid out the instructions step by step, students could do the checklist, they were kind of responding really positively. As I say, students find it easy to understand the completion of the assessment and how to find resources. As you saw, everything was in one platform. So some of the qualitative feedback that we had from students. So as I say, they really appreciated that checklist, that they bring the agency to ticking off what they were supposed to be doing. And things around the automatically saving the work. We don't really think that being really important, but the students felt rest assured that as they were working in the platform that was new, important to know that the work wasn't lost or wasted anywhere, and that they were feeling really supported to do that was nice comments to hear. And then the last thing about here is that the assessment box, so the resources and the checklist worked really well for them to complete the assessment, and they found it really helpful. So teachers as well, even though we didn't do that online survey with them, we sort of interviewed teachers across 8 modules, and really overwhelmingly positive feedback from teachers' side too. So things like columns, they started using this. You can't really see the bottom bit, but I'll tell you because this is the one that I really like. Yeah, thank you. They thought that they're going to address the academic integrity issue because of the power of the data they were seeing, but they actually ended up improving their assessment design. Essentially, they created the 2 formative steps to do the summative assessment. and they actually thought differently about the assessment design that they didn't think about. And so it's not just using EdTech for misconduct cases and finding that different kinds of data, but they actually found themselves doing different educational design assessments that engage students better. The other things around supportive, but because they had, what was it? That yeah, so because students know that platform is collecting different types of data, the teachers kind of thought that they were doing the right thing because they were told that different types of data were collected. And so it's that idea of having that educative conversation around academic integrity deters students doing misconduct, but not just them towards doing the right thing. I think that comment kind of highlights that. Oh, thank you. So what did we learn? So in terms of the assessment design, we learned a fair bit about one solution does not fit all type scenario. And so there are lots of different types of written assessments, but things like lab report that might have lots of tables, images, charts, it doesn't work well. It's just a platform diagnostic that we found, but it works really well when basically they're writing to learn academic writing skills. So when, for example, students copy and paste a big chunk of text, platform pops up with a warning, or you're copying and pasting big chunk of text, paraphrase this, and here is the resources for referencing or there. And so that kind of academic writing skills that you're trying to develop, but teachers might not have a lot of the time to do. So that kind of feedback is automated within the platform. Written types of assessments work really well for that. But as I say, other types of written assessments that have non-text format didn't really work well. We also thought that it's really important to work with academics and really helping them to engage with their students in using the Kadamas as it intended. And so like with any EdTech, it's never perfect. There are certain things that just can't do, and certain things that the teachers and students need to be mindful of. And so we need to work with teachers, but also their students to support what they need to be able to do. So we are moving towards the semester 2 pilot, and this is just from our Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry. And as you can see, we are increasing the number of modules, but also not just postgraduate, which was predominantly the case in semester 1, but also going into undergraduate, really to improve the NSS score, essentially. And so pharmacology and biomarker in neuroscience module, that's the first, second year and third year modules, and then the rest is postgraduate degree modules. And problem-based learning is the biggest assessment piece that we have, but the rest are sort of usual written essay type assessments that we have. So we're going to do the same evaluation in terms of the framework that we applied to compare semester 1 and semester 2. And we're now making the argument for the beyond the pilots, and so for the institution to really own this. So in essence, what did we learn? We learned really the need for institutional, really well supported pilots like this to do different things around assessment. A lot of the teachers that we talked with, they say in the past there's multiple attempts of different EdTech being implemented, but they didn't really have a lot of the support and it kind of died away. But the fact that my team, Digital Education Studio, working with ITS TELT team, Technology Enhanced team, really supported this as an institutional approach to do this innovation project. So alongside with that is that idea of capacity building and relationship being really important. And so we didn't just throw away the tech used by educators, students, and ed tech companies, so the customers themselves, but we brought in our team and then the other part. So QM Academy is our academic development unit on the learning and teaching portfolio, so that we have oversight of what's happening and really talk in the educational language that academics and students really need, not just a learning tech language when we're doing things around assessment in particular. As I say, it was really important to create this success indicators as a pilot project team early on. To think about what would success look like was really important. And the fact that we could create the framework together and evaluating this project, I think brings robust conversation about how we took on this innovation project. And so in essence, it was EdTech as a catalyst to provoke conversations and do the paradigm and practice shift of what we might do in terms of authentic assessment design. And this is only at the end of the semester 1 pilot. And so we're really looking forward to evaluating the semester 2, which would bring different types of data from undergraduate in particular, and bring it to the enterprise solution for the university to own. So the conversation now is moving from the 2 faculties to the learning and teaching portfolio in the center, and what that might mean for us as an institution. So that is the end of the presentation.
Okay, thank you.